Hi, so I'm recording this video in December 2018 and recently Brother have released the downloadable program for the ScanNCut machine, which you can now use on Mac as well as Windows. If you're new to my channel on YouTube, Apple Lover 53, or you're new to the ScanNCut machine, Brother have given us for free a program that has been used online called ScanNCut Canvas, which is now known as Canvas Workspace for Web. And this is a program that they gave us free to use to help us create cutting files for any model of ScanNCut machine. Until recently, when you logged in to ScanNCut Canvas or Canvas Workspace online, you would have seen this black tab that said Windows. Brother provided a downloadable program to use offline on your computer for Windows users only. But recently they have now provided a Mac version. Now, if you don't know what ScanNCut Canvas or Canvas Workspace for Web online is, if you go to my website, which is www.applelover53.co.uk, and go to the ScanNCut Help and Information tab, on here there is a link that tells you how to get an online Canvas account. You will need an online Canvas account, which is perfectly free. You just set it up with an email, username and password. Once you've got that and you go then to Canvas Online, you will see this screen, and this would be where you would log in. If you're a new user, you go here and set up your account. Once you're all set up with your online account, you can then come back to Canvas Workspace online and now you can download the program for Mac. So you would click on the download, it will take you to the Brother Solutions Centre. You will scroll down and find your machine. I have the CM900, so that would be what I would choose. It should automatically pick up that you're on a Mac. If for any reason it comes up with Windows and you're trying to now get the Mac program, select the Mac, but it should automatically know from the system that you're using that you are using a Mac, and it should also know which version of the operating system you are using, in my case 10.13. Whichever one is chosen for you, click on search. It will bring up the user agreement, which you have to accept, and once you accept that, the downloadable program file will drop into your downloads folder. Now, my downloads folder is in the bottom of my dock, at the bottom of my computer monitor. If yours isn't there, you should have a finder window in your dock, which looks like a face split in two, one half being dark blue, the other half being a pale blue or pale grey. Window, you will have a downloads folder, and this is where the Canvas Workspace downloadable program will be. I'm just going to drag it onto my desktop for now. So all as you need to do from now on in is double click on that box that I've just shown you, the Canvas downloadable program box. And once you double click, it will open and you will follow these instructions. So you'll press continue. There's only a few steps I'm not going to do it because I've already got mine downloaded and installed. Once it's downloaded and installed, if it doesn't automatically open up on your workspace, if you hit the F4 key on your keyboard, which is one of the keys that run along the top above your numbers, this will open up your apps and you will find the app here. Now, you may have more pages than me. I've only got 2 pages. If I scroll across on my mouse, you'll see I've got 2 pages, and I've got space on my first page, so the program has put itself here. All as I did with mine was grabbed this icon and dragged it down and dropped it into my dock. So I've created a shortcut in my dock. To get rid of this, you just press the F4 key again. So now I have the downloadable program as a shortcut in my dock and installed on my Mac. So now I'm going to click it to open it. And when you first open it, it will ask you to log in using your Canvas Workspace Online username and password. And that's why it's important to have a Workspace account before you get to this stage. Mine's not asking me because it only asks you on the first operation, and I've already done that. Okay, so to try and give you a bit of an overview of the differences, I've got ScanNCut Canvas Online here on the left, and on the right is the new downloadable program. So that hopefully you can see the features of the downloadable program more, I'm just making the online version smaller. So for a start, you can see they look different. I think the one on the right looks a bit more modern than the online version, but they basically do the same. There are a couple more new features in the downloadable program which make the program more usable. For videos, I'm not sure. I may still continue to use the Canvas Online. I'm not sure yet, but this is just going to be comparison of the two, hopefully side by side. So when you fire up the download program, this is what it looks like. And when you fire up the online program and go to new project, this is what it looks like. If you've been using Canvas for some time, you'll be used to seeing your My Projects, your basic shapes, your borders, your logos, your text. And then if you've bought any additional extras, so like the rhinestone feature or maybe the embossing feature or anything like that, the other extras that you buy additional to the basic machine, then they appear in here. I've only got the rhinestone activated at the moment, and that's why that's here. You may not have this. So My Projects is as it says. It stores all the projects that you make in ScanNCut Canvas Online, and you can scroll through and you can click Get More, and you know they'll all appear here. And then you hit the back arrow and it gets you back to here. Basic shapes. In the past, all your shapes have all been here under one title, Basic Shapes. Now, in the downloadable program, if you come to the top left icon, which is your Basic Shapes, when you click it, it brings out this extra menu, which you can click here and it will float and you can move it anywhere around on your page. I don't want to do it at the moment because I'm screen recording and I don't want to mess up the screen record. But when you click on the Basic Shapes, you'll now see that the shapes are in categories. So you've got square, so anything that's square, whether it's just a straight-sided square or a jagged square or a scallop square, it's just now under square. Rectangles are under rectangles, polygons, triangles, circles, ellipses, hearts, stars, arrows, and others. They're all now categorized into subsections, if you like. Borders. In ScanNCut Canvas, when you click on borders, all your borders are all here. Borders now come under the shapes section. So once you've got this top left icon selected and you've got your basic shapes, borders is now underneath. So that's where all your borders live. Logos back in ScanNCut Canvas Online are now also under this basic shapes section, and they're not called logos, they're now called fun, and they're all here. I think you've got the same amount. I've not had time to actually sit and count what's in logos and what's in fun, but you get the idea. So that's all under the basic shapes. Now, the next icon down in Canvas Online is text. When I select text, you will see that you have got 20 fonts. And these are the only fonts that you can use in ScanNCut Canvas unless you use the Brother Type font converter. Again, there's a link to that on my website. And then you would create some text, save it and open it online to be able to then weld it to something or do whatever you want to it. Now, when you come to the downloadable program and you come to the T icon, which is text, and select text, your mouse icon changes. When you click on the page, you now get a box. So if I type Happy Christmas, nothing will happen until I hit the Enter key on my keyboard. Once I hit the Enter key on the keyboard, the text appears on the screen and then this properties box appears. Now, I'll start at the top. By default, under operation, it will show as a cut. So in other words, you would cut this out and all these letters would cut individually. You can use the drop down arrow and change it to draw so that when you then save this file and go to use it in your machine, it would draw it rather than cut it. I'm just going to put it back to cut. Under colour, you will see the line basic shape is black, and that's what you can see here. And there's a fill colour. Now, if I click on the fill colour, it will bring up my colour window that's on my Mac. So I can choose, to change the colours here. I can choose the icon along and change the colours here. Grayscale, I can use the Apple colours, so I can make the fill red. I can make it magenta, I can make it blue, I can change it back to black. It will just use the colour wheel, if you like, that appears on the Mac. So if I want to change it bright pink, I can change it bright pink. If I decide I don't want the fill on it anymore, I can take the opacity slider, which is here under the colours, down to nothing, close the window down, and then it's back to no fill. Whereas before, on here, if I type some basic text, I'll choose a basic font and just use the word as text. Before, you used to have to go to your properties box and choose a colour that Brother gave you for a fill or an outline. Like so. So that's different. So just going back to Canvas download, you can also change the thickness of the line. So if you have trouble seeing this faint line, you can make the line thicker. This won't cut any thicker, it's just a visual aid. I'm going to take mine back down to 1 because that's how I prefer it. Next to this is where you would choose your dashed or solid line. So if this was a shape and I wanted to put dash lines around it, this is where you choose it. So in Canvas, where you normally come to cut and draw and choose cut and then come down here and choose your pattern, in the downloadable program, it's here under line next to width where it says dash pattern. And again, you can choose, you know, if you want to make it a dashed or a solid line, depending on whether you're going to cut it or draw it. The best thing about this program is you will now see where it says text, it says font, and you have a drop down arrow. When you click on the drop down arrow, this will load all the fonts that you have on your Mac. Most of what I'm showing you here, I would imagine, is exactly the same for the Windows version, but I don't have a Windows computer, so this is why I'm referring to Mac. So if I want to change the font that's on my screen now to a different font that's on my computer, that's what I can do. In here, I would only be able to use any of these 20 preset fonts, but now I can use any font at all. So if you have favourite fonts that you've used in the past on your computer, you can now use them in the downloadable program, and you can get the ScanNCut to cut them or draw them for you. You will also have an option here that's the style. If the font that you're using has an italics or a bold style, I'm imagining that that will show up here. Most of the fonts I think that I use probably just come as regular. So that's all you will have. So if I take this back to a different font again, it has to be selected for these options to show up. Now the other thing that you can do on here, you've got character spacing. So if I wanted to weld these letters together so that they would cut as one rather than individual letters, I can now use the down arrow and I can squash them together so that they start to overlap, and I would then be able to go and weld all those letters together. So that's all under this main properties tab. So I'll close this down in Canvas, and your properties tab before was in Canvas was the box with the lines in it. Now, if I come to the next icon down, which is the edit icon, this is what you would normally find here in Canvas Online. So I'm going to come back to the downloadable program and I'm going to come to edit. Again, while I'm on text, it will show you up here that I'm in 30% view, I'm on cut, it shows you the fill, the line, what line point I've got set and what font I'm on, and this is the character spacing at the end. So these are just replicated from within the properties box here. So here now, when I come to edit, this is where I now find my process overlap and weld. So if these are overlapped enough, I'm just going to zoom in. You've seen, and then to deselect the zoom, you go to the arrow here like you would do in Canvas. You've seen that I've moved the letters together. So if I now come to weld, they now all weld. Happy and Christmas haven't because they're not touching, but the letters of happy have, except the Y hasn't because obviously I've not moved it enough, but the letters that were touching have welded together. Don't know if you can see, if I zoom in, the H and the A were touching, so they've welded together. So I'm just going to go back to the selection and I'm going to go to display, zoom to mat size, and that takes me back to the mat size. So this is now where you will find your weld, divide, remove overlap and subtract, all under the edit menu. And I'm just going to delete that text because in this edit menu now, this is something that I'm really excited about. We've now got position and size X and Y coordinates. So if I come back to the basic shapes and choose a square, and just move that to give me a bit more space, I can now position this square wherever I want on this mat. So this is great for if you're making 3D projects like boxes where you might want to put dash lines in. So I've got this box positioned somewhere on my page, and as you can see, as I'm moving it, if you watch up here, these XY coordinates are moving. So I'm going to position this box in the top left hand corner. So under position X, I'm going to type 0 and hit enter on my keyboard, and that's moved it to the left, to this left edge. And under Y, I'm going to type 0 and hit enter on my keyboard and see what happens when I do. It's now positioned it directly in the 0, 0 position, which is the top left hand corner. So I'm just going to skip a couple of icons for now. If I come to the path icon, which is here, and select it and left click on my page, hold my shift key down and draw down a straight line and double click to anchor it. If this was a box lid I was making, I'm just going to make it 4 inches square. So I've selected it, and under edit, I'm going to say 4 and hit enter, and that will now make this box exactly 4 inches square. And because the coordinates are still 0, 0, it's still kind of sat in this top position, if you like. I'm now going to select my path I've just drawn. You can see it's 0 wide because it's just a line, a path, and I'm going to make it 4 inches high so it matches this box. And if I wanted to make this box with a score line at 1 and 3 inches, I can now select this line. I can go to properties, I can make it a cut line, I can make it a dash line, I can go back to edit, and I can say I want it in position 1 inch on the X axis and 0 on the Y, and it will put that dash line now exactly on 1 inch. So if I now want to put one on 3 inches, I could duplicate that line if I want, and this is where another element of this program comes in. If I now come to the layers icon, you will now see I've got layers. I've got the box. So when I click on it here, it highlights the box. And when I click on the dash line, it highlights the dash line. And I can come down to the bottom here and I can hit duplicate, and it will give me a new dashed line. I can go back to edit because that dash line is selected. I can come back to the X icon, X axis, and say position it at 3 inches, and I can come to the Y axis and say on the 0 axis, so it lines up at the top. So I'm going to draw another dash line, click, let go of the mouse, hold my shift key down, drag a line out, come back to the editing icon, make it 4 inches, and I want to now position this 1 inch down from the top. Now it's showing me it's at 5.04 and 0.19, so it's just in a little bit. So I want to position it on the 0 on the x-axis, and then on the y-axis I want to position it at 1, and that's now put my horizontal line in at 1 inch, and then I could do the same and put one in at 3. Now I'm just going to come back to the layers panel. Here's my horizontal line. I go to properties and change it to my dash line. So you can see now that it's going to be a lot easier and a lot more accurate to add in fold lines with this program. And again, as I say, you can come to your layers panel and you can hide layers. You can switch them back on by using the same box. Okay, so while we're just on this side, the one last thing on here is the artboard, which is this on the bottom. So if you click on this, this is now where you find how you change your page size. So by default it's 12 by 12. If you want to change it to 12 by 24, it will now show 12 by 24. Take it back to 12 by 12. That's the view you're normally used to seeing. You can change your measurements from inches to millimeters. I prefer to work in inches. By default, I think ruler is not showing, but if you select show ruler, it will show you rulers. I don't particularly like them, to be honest. It's entirely up to you. So if you don't want to, you can turn them off. Then this is also where you'll find show matte image. So if you don't want the matte showing, you can turn that on and off. Show grid, if you want your screen to be plain white, you can show your grid. I like my grid on. You can now have snap to grid. So if I drag the box, you'll see it's only moving grid to grid now. So that's another feature which we didn't have before. Sometimes that's handy. I don't like to leave it on, but it is handy to have. And you can alter the size of the grid. So by default, if you're in inches, they're set to 1 inch. Again, if you want to make them bigger, you can have them at 1.25 or 1.5 or 2, or, you know, as big as you want. I'm going to take mine back down to the default. So that's all under your artboard, which used to be previously in online canvas under view. So this was where you could show mats and properties and that previously. So now I'm just going to go back to the icons on the left, and I'll go back to them here. So now this is SVG, which used to be up here in the online version. So again, this is where you would import something in that's an SVG from your computer, or another FCM cutting file, you know, that you may have. So this is now your image tracing icon, which used to be here. And this is where you would bring in your JPEG if you want to turn an image into a cutting file. The path icon I've already explained, showing you how to put the dashed lines in. And this is just the freehand path icon, which was also here in ScanNCut Canvas. And this is, again, if you select it, you can draw squiggly lines. To deselect, you just go back to the arrow head at the top, and that deselects any icon you've chosen. And then you can right click and hit delete, or you can hit the delete key on your keyboard. Again, the drop out menu that appears here can float. If you select it, it will float, and then you can press the red dot to close it down. But all in all, I think it's good. I think there are some good improvements. You know, I like the XY coordinates that are under the edit menu. Your alignment are also under edit as well. I like the layers, being able to, you know, select your layers here to either cut or draw or turn them off or put them back on. Or you can actually lock them. So if I move the square out of the way and select the dash lines, I can lock them. So that's, you know, a feature that can be handy sometimes if you, you know, have got multiple items on your page. If I just click undo, everything will move back. You know, your artboard is all here. It's easy to switch from 12 by 12 to 12 by 24. So all in all, I think it's got some good improvements. And I hope that by doing it this way, I've been able to give you a better overview of, you know, a comparison between both programs. And let me know what you think. Leave me comments under this video telling me which program do you prefer. Do you prefer the online program? Do you prefer the downloadable program? Are you going to use it? Please give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't already do so. Make sure you've got the notification icon switched on, which is the bell on YouTube, and then YouTube will let you know when I upload any new videos. I'm going to, in the next video, I'm going to show you how to save. I'm going to explain how to save files because it is slightly different. But let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see, and I'll see if I can, you know, do any future videos on it. Thank you.